Yo, I think I'm gonna have to hire someone, man, to storyboard my book, man. The second part, going up to the last book in the series. My DJ Wood and Uzi book that I began is highly complex. There's a lot to it. And so I penned the first one myself just to kind of like form the basis of the story. And in the first book, DJ Wood and Uzi, which is available through Amazon and online, you can get a paperback version. You can get the ebook. In the paperback version and ebook of, well, what I meant to say is in the first book, by the way, I'm One Sir Grove, OSGOE, that is One Sir Grove, and I am the host of C4CW, this podcast here, casting 495 celebrities worldwide because I am a member of 495. And so, yeah, the very first book that I penned, that I wrote, DJ Wit and Uzi, that's W-I-T. I left out the H because I wanted it to look cool. DJ Wit and Uzi. Yeah, but seriously, so anyway, the idea was to make it orthographically different from that of other spellings. So I rocked with the Wit and Uzi to set it apart from other movies. And so the first book is about Milo, my character's name, the character, rather, is what I'm saying, who I developed. The central character, the protagonist, his name is Milo. And Milo, in the beginning, which is the first book, and the first book, it's him as a child. So I'm going to go ahead and just break it down. I wasn't going to reveal it, but I'm going to reveal it to you. Those of you true fans who have tuned in to this here podcast. So the idea is this. I wanted to create this fictional universe overlapping with a real universe. And I say fictional in that some of these concepts are from dreams that I've had. So the content isn't really, at least in the first book. In the first book, it's not really fictional. It's actually from a childhood dream. So what you find out, and this is a spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book, if you haven't obtained a copy of it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I wrote a book called DJ Wood and Uzi, which is actually a series of books. And I have an offer to do something big with a big company. But they also want for me to pay them some serious fucking dough. But should I decide to accept the offer, it's a major fucking company, and it will take my book series to the next level of shit. It'll be huge. And I won't mention the name of the publisher, and I won't mention the names of any of the authors that this publishing company has. But should I entertain the notion and oblige, I have a contact who's reached out to me several times over the past couple of years, and I have an opportunity to take the book to the next fucking level of publishing. I'm talking some big time shit. Just like Veronica Roth's Divergent series. And I'm not saying that she's part of the company that I'm referring to, but I'm saying it would be big like that. It would be some big time shit. The story that I wrote would become fucking quite sensational. It would be huge. And I say that humbly. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm telling you, like, folks, straight up. I was a college honor student, so I had a 4.0 in college honors. So I know grammar when I want to use it, when I feel like using it. I know college, university, college honors English. I know the rules of grammar. I know all of the complex different fucking rules. I studied grammar since I was a child in English, and I excelled in it. And I say this humbly, and I was a college honors student. So I know how to fucking write. I know how to develop characters, and I know how to describe things, and I know how to use words should I decide to develop characters and backstories and this and that. And if there's some type of literary convention of which I'm unfamiliar, if there's something that I've seen that I've never used before per se, but I know that it exists within the canon of English, I mean, I fucking was a college honor student and I could just look it up and be like, oh, that's the literary device. That's how I would do this. I know how to develop characters. I know how to describe the environment, the scene. I know how to script it. I know how to describe the emotions and the feelings and the sensory, constructs, multi-sensory perception of the characters and the audience. So I know how to create the story arcs and the different constructs that comprise the story. It could be complex, it could be moderately complex, it could be fucking simple. So with the very first story, I decided to make it simple to moderately complex. Because all it is, and it may seem confusing to some, but here is the spoiler. The very first book that I published, it's just a dream. It's not really a dream, it becomes real. But what he's experiencing in the beginning is a dream. With the androids, that is the robots, the Terminators. Now listen, I say Terminator broadly. And here's why. I don't mention the word Terminator. I don't use the word Terminator in the first book. When his parents disappear and he awakes in the middle of the night. And I'll just summarize it for those of you who are unfamiliar with the first book in my book series, DJ with an Uzi. So Milo wakes up in the middle of the night, right? And this is actually a dream that I had when I was a child. So, and that's what the first book is. It's about this dream that I had. What's fucking crazy about the dream is that I remember it so vividly to this day. Now, I had this dream when I was probably like 4 years old. I think I was probably about 4 years old. And I lived in the low income housing projects of North Everett, North EVT. That's Eville. E-V-I-L-L-E. Eville. For those of you who don't know, my mother was in the military and she decided to live in the housing projects because she didn't want to ask her parents for any money. She ultimately got her degree from college and we moved out when I was 8 years old. We did live like a block away from my grandparents. So though we lived in the projects and we kind of toughed it out, we were never really truly without. My mother just wanted to be independent. But anyway, I've already backstoried that. I've already talked about that at length. In terms of the first book in DJ with an Uzi series, which again, it's a series of books, the story is that there is this child, his name is Milo. Now, instead of the housing projects, I set the story is set in a suburban community. So in my reality as a child, I was in the projects. But in DJ with an Uzi, Milo is in a standalone single family home. Now I know you might be thinking, come on, Grove, that's a little bit of escapism, man. That's just psychologically you wanting to have had like a standalone single family home when you were a child. So you cast Milo, the character, into this single family dwelling as opposed to project housing unit. Well, no. I actually lived in the single family home after we left the projects. So I had a single family home right down the street that my mother acquired. So we lived in a really nice home. It's kind of hard to describe. It's not really hard, but the North Everett projects, they're right in the middle of the burbs. So they're not the hardcore projects that you would find in like LA. It's this little area that's like next to a trailer park, because the trailer park is like across the street. And then there's a park that separates two housing project areas. It's not like some super perilous landscape like you would find in like South Central LA. Nah, it's nothing like that, man. It's like some rows. And, yeah. So anyway, but the point is, Milo, in the story, it just seemed like it would work better if he were in a single family home. And he had both parents present where I did not. Now, I know you're probably like, come on, Grove. Even more to my point, you came from a single family home. This is some type of thing where you had dreamed of having like two parents. No, it's not. Because I lived with my aunt and my uncle. Two parents, man. And they were pretty well off. So, the point is, I just figured that it would work better for Milo to be in a suburban home with two parents. So because I also figured, children, I'm saying, children who are now adults reading my book, they come, some of them, from a nuclear family, and they had both parents in their household. So I wanted it to hit home with the nuclear family, for, big time movie purposes. So as opposed to being, like single, which could work too, but I chose for it to be a two-parent household. So Milo wakes up in the middle of the night. His parents are gone. And he's like 4 years old, thinking, what the fuck? Where are my goddamn parents? Like, why are my parents not here? Kids wake up in the middle of the night. So he wakes up in the middle of the night. And he like goes to take a whiz. And he's like, scuffing around the house in his little slippers or whatever. Barefoot, socks, whatever. I can't remember exactly what I say. How I depict it. But, he's like looking for his parents. Now keep in mind, this shit is like 3:30, 4 a.m. Between 2:30 and like 4:30 a.m. His parents are just ghosts. They're gone. No trace, nothing. And he's like, this has never happened before. And he's clearly fucking scared out of his mind. He's a little boy, right? He doesn't like know what's going on. So he's looking around the home. He doesn't see any, and it's dark as fuck, right? He looks outside and it's dark as shit. Something seems weird also. Not just that his parents are missing, they're fucking gone, right? And he's looking around the home like in closets and shit, and he has this really strange feeling that something really ominous is happening. Not just that his parents are gone, but it's like some fucking unexplainable, like, just really dark fucking shit. Like some apocalyptic type shit. And so he goes through all the little cubby hole spaces, all because it's not a big home, but he goes through the home, like in search of his parents, like closets and cabinets and pantry and this and that, right? Bathroom and the garage or whatever, right? There's no one fucking there. He looks outside, shit is pitch black. But he also notices, he senses that there's something really fucking weird with the atmosphere. And as his senses are sensing, right, his perception, it's increasing as he's awakening, right? Because he's like half awake when he's fucking taking a whiz, and then he goes through this process of being alarmed, and then he's outside. He notices, man, something fucking about the neighborhood too. He gets the impression that there's no one there. No one's there. Now, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I'm just saying, if you've seen the movie, okay, then you know. But if you haven't, kind of like Vanilla Skies. But different because Vanilla Skies takes place during the fucking day. This is at nighttime. He just gets this feeling, man, that there's no one left on Earth. He doesn't know why he feels that, but he feels like there's just no one fucking there. And, So, like I said, I was going to summarize it for you. So at some point, as he's doing this assessment and evaluation of his home and his parents' whereabouts and his neighborhood, he does in fact realize that there's no one there. And at that moment, just as that all kind of coalesces and it all just kind of weighs in on him and it like imprints and he concludes that there's nothing there and there's no one there, he sees this movement, this like shadowy, silhouette-y movement at the end of both blocks. Like the end of his block is what I mean, at both ends of his block. And he's trying to make out what it is. And at some point he realizes that they're fucking these robots that are closing in on him. I saw that shit when I was a kid in a dream. And those robots looked like military grade, like some basically like Terminator robots. Not exactly as you would see in the movie Terminator, but they were definitely bipedal. They definitely moved like killer androids. They definitely were armed, and they were quite silent. And that was the thing that was so evil about this shit, man. Anyway, I saw that shit before the movie Terminator existed. But this book isn't about Terminators. So yeah, sorry I had to pause for a moment. But yeah, so it's not a story about Terminators. It's not a story about Terminators. Obviously, the movie Terminator is its own movie. There are a lot of movies now where you have like killer robots and killer androids, and that's not what this is about. What it's about is this was a dream that this is a dream that I had that when I thought about creating this character named Milo, I was like, how would I begin this storyline of this DJ who travels through time? Well, I'm sorry. It's not the DJ who travels through time. The DJ is actually here in New York. And but how would I create a character that I just had to do some tasks outside this podcast, so I just came back to the podcast and was collecting my thoughts. DJ does not travel to time. The main character travels through time. Is a time traveler. He's a military government scientist. He's an aerospace. He's military, and he was trained in Alaska as a youth. He was part of this program where they trained up these youths to travel to other Americas, like other. It's not Stargate Atlantis, okay? Stargate Atlantis, they travel to all kinds of different like universes that involve like Egyptian shit and different like alien shit and all kinds of like weird shit, okay? Those are not the types of Americas that I'm talking about. I'm talking about this character travels to other Americas. Now, Sliders, I know what you're thinking. Grove, they travel to a parallel universe. Yeah, they do. But sometimes they go to some really weird places with like giant bumblebees and shit like that. That's not where this character goes. That's not how he's traveling. So, and we'll get into that later. But the point is that the beginning of the story, DJ with an Uzi, the audience is supposed to be confused. It's intentional. The audience is supposed to be like, what is this fucking what? DJ with an Uzi? What is this? Who's this little kid? Like, what is he? What? He's in a home and his parents disappear and it's like nighttime and it's like dark and shit. It's like he doesn't know where the fuck they are. And he's like creeping around trying to find them. And what? How is this like time travel? Well, because when that dream sequence is happening, Milo is actually somewhere else. He's somewhere else. And he doesn't know that he's somewhere else. And that's why he's having this dream. He's having this dream about being a little boy. There we go, boom, right there. He's having this dream about being this little boy in this little childhood home, and his parents aren't there, and it doesn't make sense. And you realize ultimately that none of it makes sense because he's actually on another planet. He's actually on Mars. Yeah, so anyway, he's actually on Mars. And the way that he got to Mars was by way of a jump room. That is a teleportation room, essentially. That's hidden beneath ground. That is a subterranean facility. And when he teleported, to Mars, when he traveled through hyperspace, he blacked out. And it's when he's coming to that he's having this dream. He thinks that he's a small child inside this little standalone family dwelling, and that his parents have disappeared, and none of it's real. It's just his imagination. It's just a dream because he's not there on Earth in the first place. Like I said, he's on Mars, and the reason he's on Mars is because we found out a way to jump between Earth and Mars. And as a military scientist, he's one of the individuals that has access to Mars. And in between these different jumps that he does, he periodically is under the Martian surface in these tunnels that were constructed. And so that's where he is. And that's where he comes to, and that's the beginning of DJ Winnanuzi.